What happens when fame disappears overnight? One moment a star is adored by millions. The next, their entire career is gone erased in a single headline or shocking twist. Hollywood may glitter with success, but it can be just as ruthless in taking it all away. From actors who made one fateful mistake to singers caught in scandals that silenced their songs, these stories will leave you stunned. Stay with us, because the countdown begins right now. Lindsay Lohan. From America's sweetheart to Hollywood's cautionary tale, Lindsay Lohan was once the face of youthful stardom. After The Parent Trap and Mean Girls, her career seemed unstoppable. Studios lined up with million-dollar contracts, and her future looked like a dream carved in neon lights. But fame at such a young age came with its own pressures. By her early 20s, Lindsay became known more for her off-screen headlines than her on-screen talent. Multiple court dates, missed film shoots, and probation violations left producers wary. Movie insurance companies began refusing to cover her, a crushing blow in an industry where reliability is everything. Her 2010 sentencing to serve time after failing to attend mandatory alcohol education classes was a headline that defined her downfall. Even when she tried to mount a comeback, directors whispered about unpredictable behavior, and studios hesitated to take the gamble. The industry's memory can be long, and in her case, unforgiving. Yet there's always the what-if factor. She had the charisma, she had the box office power, but Hollywood can be ruthless when patience runs out. Though she's recently returned with streaming projects, the bright spark of her early years remains a reminder of what could have been. Lohan's career didn't fade slowly. It collapsed overnight, turning a star into a symbol of squandered potential. Charlie Sheen. At one time, Charlie Sheen was the highest-paid actor on television. 2.5 Men turned him into a sitcom king, earning nearly $2 million per episode. Audiences loved his roguish charm, and studios adored his ratings power. But behind the scenes, the image began to crack. In 2011, a string of interviews changed everything. Sheen's bizarre catchphrases, like calling himself a warlock with tiger blood, dominated news cycles. Instead of generating laughs, they painted the picture of a star unraveling on live television. CBS executives, worried about the show's reputation, fired him from the series. The fall was immediate. Endorsements vanished, film offers dried up, and Sheen's public appearances became more about spectacle than acting. His attempted live comedy tour became infamous for audiences walking out mid-show. What had been Hollywood's most bankable TV career evaporated almost overnight. There's no denying his impact. 2.5 Men continued for years, but many fans agreed it was never the same without him. For Sheen, the downward spiral was a textbook case of how quickly fortunes shift in Hollywood. From television royalty to an industry exile, Charlie Sheen's career imploded as fast as his soundbites went viral. Jussie Smollett. In 2019, Jussie Smollett's name was everywhere, but for all the wrong reasons. At the time, he was a key star on Empire, a hit series blending music and drama. Then came a shocking report. Smollett claimed he was the victim of a late-night attack in Chicago. Fans and fellow celebrities rallied behind him, but soon cracks appeared in the story. Investigators alleged that the incident was staged. Suddenly, the narrative flipped. Instead of a victim, Smollett was painted as the orchestrator of a hoax. The backlash was swift and merciless. Empire cut ties, court cases dragged on, and the press coverage overshadowed his entire body of work. Hollywood thrives on trust, and producers were unwilling to take chances on a name now associated with controversy. Even though the legal battles played out over months, his career collapse felt instant. Overnight, he went from a celebrated rising star to someone studios avoided. It wasn't just about one incident. It was about the perception that audiences could no longer separate his work from the headlines. Smollett continues to defend himself, but the damage to his professional life has been lasting. The entertainment industry rarely offers second chances for stories this polarizing. What was once the breakout role of a promising actor became a cautionary tale of how quickly trust and a career can vanish. Paula Deen. She was once the queen of Southern cooking. Paula Deen's Food Network empire stretched across books, shows, and restaurants. Her image as the warm, butter-loving chef made her a household favorite. Then, in 2013, a lawsuit revealed allegations of workplace discrimination and racial remarks. The fallout was instant. During a deposition, Deen admitted to using offensive language in the past. That single statement triggered a tidal wave. The Food Network dropped her almost immediately. Major sponsors pulled contracts, and her products disappeared from shelves. The collapse was remarkable, not just because of the speed, but because of how complete it was. Deen's brand wasn't built on shock value. It was built on trust, on family kitchens, on the comfort of tradition. Once that image cracked, audiences felt betrayed, and the empire could not be rebuilt. She attempted a comeback with online videos and smaller projects, but the mass appeal never returned. For a star who once seemed unstoppable, the empire turned to dust, virtually overnight. Paula Deen's story shows that in today's media landscape, reputations can vanish faster than a soufflé in the oven. Roseanne Barr. Comedy legend, sitcom pioneer, and then erased in a single night. Roseanne Barr's self-titled show dominated primetime in the late 80s and returned with a blockbuster revival in 2018. The revival premiere drew more than 18 million viewers, making it one of the biggest TV events of the decade. But it all ended with one tweet. Barr posted a remark about political advisor Valerie Jarrett that many immediately condemned as offensive. The backlash was immediate. Within hours, ABC canceled Roseanne on the very day a new episode was scheduled to air. In television history, few cancellations have been so abrupt. Cast and crew were left stunned. Within weeks, the show was retooled as The Connors, moving forward without its original star. For Barr, the moment marked an irreversible fall. Years of comedic influence couldn't outweigh the sting of a single post. Attempts at explanations and apologies couldn't undo the damage. It was a stark reminder of how fragile fame can be in the social media age, where one statement can erase decades of success. Roseanne Barr didn't just lose a show. She lost the crown of sitcom royalty overnight. Armie Hammer. From leading man to Hollywood exile, Armie Hammer's breakout roles in The Social Network and Call Me by Your Name made him one of the industry's most promising actors. Tall, charming, and versatile, he seemed destined for a long run at the top. Then everything unraveled almost overnight. In 2021, disturbing claims from former partners surfaced across social media, alleging troubling behavior and manipulative conduct. Whether or not the stories were proven in court, the sheer volume of coverage painted Hammer as toxic in the eyes of the industry. Studios reacted quickly. He was dropped from Shotgun Wedding opposite Jennifer Lopez, replaced in Billion Dollar Spy, and quietly removed from other projects. The damage didn't stop there. His agency and publicist both cut ties, leaving him adrift at a time when Hollywood thrives on connections. For an actor who once seemed like a safe bet for prestige roles and blockbuster parts, his name became synonymous with controversy instead of talent. Today, Hammer has stepped away from the spotlight, his reputation eclipsing his filmography. It's a stark reminder. In Hollywood, even rising stars can fall faster than they climbed. CeeLo Green. He had the voice, the hits, and the charm. CeeLo Green climbed the charts with Forget You and became a household face as a coach on The Voice. His mix of eccentric style and genuine musical talent made him an icon in the early 2010s, but a few years later, his career was gone. It wasn't one event, but a combination of legal troubles and damaging statements. After facing allegations in 2012 that hurt his reputation, he compounded the situation by posting controversial remarks online, that shocked fans even more. Instead of offering remorse, his comments were interpreted as dismissive, fueling a backlash that sponsors and networks couldn't ignore. The response was swift. NBC cut ties, canceling his show The Good Life and removing him from The Voice. Concert bookings dried up, and while Green continued making music, his mainstream appeal evaporated. The industry that once celebrated his uniqueness now saw him as a liability. It's a striking example of how quickly public opinion can shift when words don't align with responsibility. For CeeLo Green, it wasn't just about one misstep, it was the chain reaction that sent his career tumbling overnight. Katherine Heigl. She was once Hollywood's rom-com queen. From 27 Dresses to Knocked Up, Katherine Heigl seemed unstoppable in the 2000s. She also held a steady role on Grey's Anatomy, winning an Emmy and cementing herself as a star who could conquer both TV and film. Then came the backlash. It started with interviews. Heigl publicly criticized Knocked Up for being unfair to women and dismissed her own Emmy-nominated role on Grey's Anatomy as not worthy. The honesty might have been refreshing to some, but to producers and colleagues, it signaled trouble. Directors whispered about her being difficult, and studio executives began to hesitate. Adding fuel to the fire, Forbes once ranked her among the most overpaid actresses, thanks to big paychecks attached to underperforming films. Soon, casting offers dried up. By the mid-2010s, the woman once seen as Julia Roberts' successor was sidelined almost completely. In recent years, Heigl has spoken out about the fallout, saying she was punished simply for voicing her opinions. Whether fair or not, Hollywood's memory was unkind, and her career never returned to its earlier heights. Katherine Heigl's rise and fall is proof. In an industry built on reputation, words can be as damaging as actions. Mel Gibson. An Oscar-winning filmmaker, a blockbuster star, and then the crash. Mel Gibson was once untouchable with Braveheart and Lethal Weapon, making him a household name worldwide. But his reputation took a nosedive in the mid-2000s after a series of explosive incidents that shattered his image. The most infamous came in 2006, when a late-night arrest spiraled into headlines after Gibson was reported to have used offensive language. For many, it was a shocking departure from the charismatic actor they admired on screen. The fallout was swift. Studios distanced themselves, publicists scrambled, and his long-planned projects evaporated. Suddenly, the man behind some of Hollywood's most iconic roles became a symbol of disgrace. He disappeared from major films for nearly a decade, a remarkable absence for someone who once defined box office power. Years later, Gibson staged a partial comeback with Hacksaw Ridge, which earned him an Oscar nomination for directing. But the shadow of his earlier controversies has never truly lifted. For many, his name still carries the weight of those troubling years, making his career a story of brilliance and collapse all at once. Mel Gibson's career didn't just stumble, it proved that even the biggest legends can be toppled in a single night. Chris Brown. It was the scandal that changed everything. In 2009, Chris Brown was at the height of his music career. His albums topped charts, his dance moves electrified audiences, and his image as a youthful hitmaker seemed flawless. Then came the night that altered it all. News outlets worldwide reported on his violent altercation with then-girlfriend Rihanna. The images that followed shocked fans and reshaped his public identity forever. Brown pleaded guilty to felony assault and was sentenced to probation and community service. But the legal outcome was only part of the story. Sponsors abandoned him. Radio stations pulled his songs. And while he continued releasing music, the stain of that night never left his career. Even as Rihanna publicly forgave him years later, audiences remained divided. Unlike some stars on this list, Brown never fully vanished. He continues to release hits and maintains a fan base. But his mainstream image, the one that once made him a crossover sensation, was lost in an instant. Chris Brown's story is proof that one night can cast a shadow across an entire career, no matter how high the climb was before. Shia LaBeouf. He was once Hollywood's golden boy. Shia LaBeouf rose from the Disney Channel's Even Stevens to lead roles in Transformers and Indiana Jones. Directors praised his raw energy, and audiences loved his everyman appeal. Then, almost as quickly, it all came crashing down. LaBeouf's troubles began with plagiarism accusations after his short film was found to borrow heavily from another work. Instead of smoothing things over, his responses only fueled the fire, appearing at premieres with a paper bag on his head, reading, "I am not famous anymore." What started as performance art soon looked like public unraveling. Add to that a string of arrests for disorderly conduct and disturbing outbursts at events, and Hollywood began distancing itself. The breaking point came when serious accusations of mistreatment from a former partner hit headlines in 2020, leading to lawsuits and an industry-wide freeze-out. Directors who once vouched for his intensity suddenly stopped calling. Films were shelved or recast. His experimental projects like Honey Boy, which once hinted at redemption, couldn't outweigh the mounting controversies. For Shia LaBeouf, it wasn't just one incident. It was the cumulative weight of chaos that erased his career overnight. Janet Jackson. A single moment on live television changed everything. Janet Jackson, a pop icon in her own right, joined Justin Timberlake on stage at the 2004 Super Bowl halftime show. The performance was electric until a wardrobe malfunction stunned millions of viewers. The moment, later dubbed Nipplegate, triggered an avalanche of fallout. The Federal Communications Commission fined CBS radio networks, quietly pulled her music, and award shows rescinded invitations. Timberlake, who was part of the same performance, continued his career largely unscathed. But for Jackson, the backlash was brutal. The punishment far outweighed the accident. Albums released afterward were met with diminished promotion, and she found herself excluded from opportunities that once would have been automatic. For years, she became the unspoken cautionary tale of what could happen when live television goes wrong. It wasn't until decades later that a new generation questioned the double standard. Why was Janet punished so severely while others walked away free? Documentaries revisiting the event reframed her as a victim of the era's moral panic. Janet Jackson's overnight fall showed how unforgiving the spotlight could be, and how quickly a legacy can be tarnished by a single slip. Sinéad O'Connor. One performance. One bold statement. One vanished career. In 1992, Sinéad O'Connor performed on Saturday Night Live. Instead of ending her set with applause, she tore up a photograph of the Pope while declaring, "Fight the real enemy." The act was meant as protest against abuse within the church, but the public reaction was immediate and unforgiving. Networks received thousands of complaints. Concert audiences booed her off stage. Celebrities condemned her. Within days, radio stations stopped playing her music. At the time, O'Connor was riding the wave of international success, with her haunting hit "Nothing Compares to You." But the SNL protest turned her from a chart-topping star into a cultural pariah. Looking back, some argue she was ahead of her time, raising issues the world wasn't ready to face. Yet in the early 90s, her protest didn't spark dialogue, it destroyed her career. Sinéad O'Connor's story remains one of the most striking examples of how a single act of defiance can erase decades of artistry overnight. Milli Vanilli. The rise was meteoric, the fall was catastrophic. Milli Vanilli, the duo of Rob Pilatus and Fab Morvan, stormed the late 80s with infectious pop hits like "Girl, You Know It's True." They danced across stages worldwide, winning a Grammy for Best New Artist. Then came the revelation. In 1990, during a live performance, their vocal track skipped, exposing that they hadn't been singing at all. Soon after, their producer admitted the unthinkable. The duo had never performed their own vocals on any of their records. The backlash was historic. Their Grammy was revoked, a first in the Recording Academy's history. Lawsuits followed from outraged fans who demanded refunds. Overnight, the duo went from global superstars to punchlines. The humiliation was so total that recovery proved impossible. Though Morvan attempted solo projects years later, the Milli Vanilli name remained synonymous with fraud in music. In a business built on illusion, Milli Vanilli's illusion collapsed overnight, and so did their careers. Jared Fogle. From national spokesperson to national disgrace, for more than a decade, Jared Fogle was the face of Subway sandwiches. His weight loss story turned him into an inspirational figure, appearing in over 300 commercials and at countless public events. To many, he was the embodiment of transformation. Then came the revelations in 2015. Federal investigators uncovered criminal behavior involving minors. The news was not only shocking, it was devastating for a brand that had built entire campaigns around his story. Subway terminated its partnership instantly, and his career ended in the harshest possible fashion, with prison time. The collapse wasn't gradual. It was immediate, absolute, and irreversible. Advertisements featuring Fogle were pulled, endorsements evaporated, and his once iconic status as the Subway guy became permanently tainted. Unlike other stars on this list, there was no path to rehabilitation. His name, once tied to sandwiches and self-improvement, is now remembered only for one of the fastest and darkest downfalls in corporate history. Jared Fogle's story shows that when the truth is exposed, an empire built on trust can disintegrate in a single day. Isaiah Washington. A breakout star on one of television's biggest shows, Isaiah Washington's role as Dr. Preston Burke on Grey's Anatomy made him a fan favorite. His sharp delivery and commanding presence helped the series rise into cultural phenomenon status in the mid-2000s. Then in 2007, everything changed. Reports surfaced that Washington had used offensive language toward co-star TR at night. At first, he issued an apology, but the damage had already been done. When the incident was referenced again during the Golden Globe Awards, the controversy reignited. For a network built on inclusivity, the situation was untenable. ABC chose not to renew his contract. Washington's departure shocked fans. Almost overnight, his career momentum evaporated. Projects became scarce, and he later revealed he could no longer afford basic industry support, like agents or publicists. For an actor at the height of his craft, the fall was swift and punishing. Isaiah Washington's story stands as proof. In Hollywood, one public misstep can close doors that never reopen. Tila Tequila. From internet pioneer to industry outcast, Tila Tequila was one of the first celebrities to leverage social media fame into mainstream success. With her MTV dating show, A Shot at Love, she became a household name, gaining millions of followers and endless tabloid coverage. But her rapid rise was followed by a faster fall. In the early 2010s, Tila began posting inflammatory statements online. The tipping point came in 2013 when she published sympathetic remarks about notorious historical figures, sparking outrage. Soon after, a 2016 photo of her making a Nazi salute at an event circulated, sealing her fate. Networks and sponsors severed ties instantly. She was removed from Celebrity Big Brother and effectively blacklisted. What could have been a long career in reality TV and entertainment was gone in an instant. Though she later turned to YouTube and smaller online projects, the mainstream spotlight never returned. Tila Tequila's career collapse shows that social media, the very tool that built her fame, also became the weapon that ended it overnight. Randy Quaid. An Oscar nominee turned fugitive. Randy Quaid earned acclaim with roles in The Last Detail, Independence Day, and National Lampoon's Vacation. But in the late 2000s, his career veered into chaos. In 2010, Quaid and his wife fled to Canada, claiming that shadowy Hollywood starwhackers were targeting them. The bizarre claims alone captured headlines. But their legal troubles told another story. They were accused of squatting in a home they no longer owned, skipping court dates, and attempting to re-enter the U.S. illegally. For an actor once celebrated for quirky, heartfelt performances, the fall was surreal. Casting directors stopped calling producers, distanced themselves, and Quaid's eccentric public appearances became late-night comedy fodder. The decline was as fast as it was strange. His wife gained Canadian citizenship, but Randy's requests were denied, leaving him stranded in a legal limbo. The man who once lit up blockbusters became known more for conspiracy theories than film credits. Randy Quaid's overnight collapse wasn't just a career loss, it was a transformation from star actor to tabloid headline. And there you have it, 18 stars who lost everything in the blink of an eye. Some careers crumbled because of reckless choices, others because of moments they couldn't take back. Fame can be dazzling, but it's fragile too. Which story shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments, share this with a friend who loves Hollywood deep dives, and don't forget to subscribe. After all, tomorrow's star could be next.